one of the biggest eye-opening things for me when I did my chart was that, I've always been told that like, oh, you're all over the place and you must be ADD and you can't focus on one thing. And I never felt it was because I couldn't focus. I just was that type of person where I gravitate towards something that I'm interested in. And as long as it's keeping me stimulated and I'm being creative and it's fueling my flame, because as a manifesting generator, we're literally like Energizer bunnies. We are batteries. That's why we attract.
Today, we get to speak with Raquel Borras, the founder of RAQVISION and the Chief Excitement Officer of True to You branding. Her passion is to help others bring to life their personal brand that is true to them. Raquel has expertise in social media and branding, which started on LinkedIn. And because she loves people and talent for audience engagement, her social media presence exponentially skyrocketed. She believes that bringing valuable content, authenticity, and vulnerability to your social media is a key to gaining a strong following and presence. At RAQVISION, the youth 17 and under safe social network is for our future creators. Raquel also created her own YouTube channel called Raq the Boat, where she has candid conversations with kids of all ages. The goal is to empower these kids and have them walk away feeling special, worthy, seen, and most importantly, heard. Let's listen in to this episode with Raquel Borras. Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. Raquel, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Like I said, it's about time.
It's about time. Well, the funny thing is we've been connected for probably about a year and a half, I think.
Yeah. Not only that, we finally have had the opportunity to see each other in person twice.
Exactly.
Now it's like we're best friends.
Yeah.
Isn't that what happens now?
I
you
think
meet
that's
someone
what
in
happens.
person and suddenly you're like best friends.
Exactly, because you understand where they come from and then the mindset that we all bring together, right? So that also helps because
Exactly.
similar mindset attracts similar people and you just love helping each other grow into the potential that we all have, right?
Yeah, and you challenge each other too. Like I like to be challenged.
Absolutely. So challenge number 1. Tell us a version of your journey that no one's heard of before. Kind of like your origin story.
That's a difficult one to answer, Junaid, because I feel like I've shared so much about my life. I'm one of those people that's pretty open about my journey and my struggles. So something that most people don't know, I will tell you this. When I got divorced about 11 years ago, something that I haven't really opened up too much about is even though it was something that I wanted and the divorce was pretty amicable, my kids were 9 and 6, and there was a lot of stuff going on where, with my kids and resentment and anger. And I don't really discuss that because I think I still have a little bit of mommy guilt. And so it's not the shame, but it's interesting how I'm, open about talking my mental health struggles, and I don't have any shame behind that anymore. And yet there's still certain things that I've experienced that I haven't really quite spoken about. And that's one thing I think at one point I do want to talk about. So there you go. You just opened up a can of worms.
I just opened up a can of worm, and I think it's a good place. It's a nice, safe space to open up because the power of conversations is that, as human beings, we put out in the world what we're trying to achieve, and then we work backwards. And I just discovered my human design system and what that entails. And I'm like,
what is it? Because I've had my human design chart done. So
okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, sweet. And this is very fresh in my mind, right? So
okay, cool.
Just did this. So apparently back in January, somebody had done a reading they pulled up my design chart, they did the reading, and they told me all these things. And in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, that was really awesome. And then I did it again last night because I was in the clubhouse room and we were talking about it. So I was like, okay, so I am a projector.
Ooh.
I'm a 3-5, I think profile or something. And
Okay.
I'm always waiting for the invitation. And I
Yeah, you're the
started,
opposite of me. I'm a manifesting generator.
there you go.
Yeah. So I have to manifest. I need to like, kind of put that energy out there and then it will come to me.
That's how it works. So I'm still learning all of the different terminology. And I was like, let me pull some up for my kids. And so 2 of my kids are generators and 1 of my kid is a projector.
Okay.
Like, wow, okay. It's a lot of information to process, and so the more I read about the invitation part, the more it started to make sense. And I'm listing all these things down. I'm talking to a friend of mine. She does the energy readings and the human design readings. And I'm
Okay.
telling her, oh, here's a list of 10 things that I was invited to. And I ended up, going further along. Like, I was invited by Gary Vaynerchuk to document my journey. And that's where the podcast started, right? I was
Wow.
invited by a video that I was watching on beekeeping. And the guy's like, you should go and check out some local beekeepers if you want to advance your beekeeping journey. I was like, thank you for the invitation. So I went and found some beekeepers associations. So I'm like thinking about all these things. I'm like, holy smokes, I've been operating on that
Yeah.
system. It's almost like an operating manual has been given to me on how Junaid's brain works.
Yeah. Why you work the way you do, right? Like one of the biggest eye-opening things for me when I did my chart was that, I've always been told that like, oh, you're all over the place and you must be ADD and you can't focus on one thing. And I never felt it was because I couldn't focus. I just was that type of person where I gravitate towards something that I'm interested in. And as long as it's keeping me stimulated and I'm being creative and it's fueling my flame, because as a manifesting generator, we're literally like Energizer bunnies. We are batteries. That's why we attract so much, because we're the energy.
Yeah.
And I realized that a lot of these things that I wouldn't complete, it wasn't because I was lazy or because, I wasn't committed. It's because it literally was not fueling me in any way. So I had to move on.
Yeah.
And then that was like a big aha moment for me, because it's like I now give myself grace. I'm like, no, the reason why I don't want to continue to do that is because I have zero interest. It's not something that's fueling me, and that's okay. So yeah,
Absolutely.
you learn a lot about yourself.
And the grace part is really amazing because I've learned to give myself grace. I'm like, yes, I wish I was that far along in the journey, but it's okay. It's gonna come when it's gonna come, when the time is right, when
Mhm.
the stars align, you know, it'll show up.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool that you got it done. I love it.
So, what are some of your motivations of the things that you do? Like, what are you working on? What really excites you? And how
So
does that
that's
come?
kind of, yeah, I always knew I loved kids.
Hmm.
So when I was young, I thought I was going to be a teacher. Then when I moved out here from California, the first job that I got was with the Fairfax County Public School System. And I worked at one of the elementary schools, and I was the assistant in the LD classroom. So the kids with learning disabilities.
Hmm.
And I absolutely loved it. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll still be a teacher, but this time special ed. And that never happened. I mean, I ended up getting married and having my first child at a young age. And so I just became a stay-at-home mom. But I've always just had this thing with kids. And, I just always feel like a kid myself.
Yeah.
And this last year, I've rediscovered that passion of how much, I am a mother of a 20 and 17-year-old. So being a mom and already, with their friends and everything.
Hmm.
But this year, when I started doing my Raq the Boat YouTube channel and talking to kids that I've never met before or spoken to, it was their parents that were reaching out to me saying, hey, I think my kid would love to talk to you. That's when I really discovered this is what I absolutely should be doing. And it's a motivational thing, right? Like
Yeah,
if you're doing something you love and you're passionate about it, obviously you're going to be motivated to want to do more of it because it
exactly.
really is fulfilling. Um, and so that's kind of where I started going towards the like youth advocacy, youth empowerment kind of space. I don't know if it's
Hmm.
really a space. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a career. I don't know in industry. But at this point, I was like, I want to be able to help our youth in any way I can. And if it means being open about my past and being open about who I am in general,
Yeah.
then so be it. So that's essentially like where I'm at. I do love branding. I mean, I just started a full-time job and I'm doing branding and social media and marketing.
Hmm.
So I have a love for that. So right now I'm essentially doing everything that I enjoy. So I'm in a great place of being essentially motivated every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really blessed by that.
No, that's really powerful, especially when you go towards the light, go towards what's really pulling you, right?
Mhm.
It just it just gives you that extra energy, the extra motivation. Like, hey, I get to do stuff that I really love,
Yeah.
and it just mind boggles me when people are like, no, I'm just stuck in this job, not really making a decision of no, they have control over what they can do with their lives.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this, being that I went out on my own almost 2 years ago and Rock the Boat, RAQVISION, all of that. I wasn't able to monetize it. I still can, but it takes time, just like
Yes.
anything does.
Yeah.
And I was just in a place of I need to have a full-time job. I need to be able to have a consistent pay. I need to be able to have benefits, all of those things. So I started my new job this past Monday, but
Hmm.
there was something about being on my own this last 2 years, just kind of like learning about myself. I gained this like newfound confidence as to what I bring to the table and the value that I bring.
Yeah.
That when I came back into the industry, I came back with like, hey, on my terms, like this is what I want to do. This is what I love doing. So if you're a company that can allow me to, like, that's why you're hiring me essentially, but I'm also going
Exactly.
to reiterate
For
this
my
is why you're
expertise.
hiring me.
Yeah.
And because what's the worst that can happen? They came to me, they could be like, yeah, you know what, never mind. But no, it was
Mhm.
the opposite. They're like, no, that's exactly what we want you to do. That's why we came to you. This is a perfect fit.
Yeah.
All of those things. And to be able to essentially kind of, yeah, come at it in full confidence, it was the first time for me because even though I've been in the corporate world before, it was more of like, I didn't negotiate. I didn't feel confident. So I kind of just took whatever I could get, which they were still great positions. Don't get me
Right. Of
wrong.
course. Of course.
But there was something about it this time around where it just was like really empowering.
Hmm. The growth happens when there's a lot, like when between a rock and a hard place, you'll see plants growing, right?
Yeah.
Because there's all the right ingredients in that spot that enables that to happen. So being able to work for yourself, being able to understand who we are as human beings and what really motivates them and the value that we really bring. Because even though you've been working for 20 years in corporate or whatever, you're being led by something different than what you're being led by now.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, fulfilling your own, how do you say it? Your own manifestations, right?
Yes. There you go. I like that word. Yeah. And I will also said, like, listen, I've really taken pride in the brand that I've built for myself and what I'm doing with it. So I want to be able to continue to do it. Like I want to be able to do this role, but also just be 100% me. And I want to feel like I'm being supported, because you do find a lot of companies, they don't want you to have any kind of outside side hustle or outside interest. Like they want you to completely focus on your job. But I think
Yeah.
that's taking a shift. I think absolutely with COVID, a lot of companies and a lot of people that are hiring are realizing like, hey, we're hiring someone that probably is doing more than just this.
Yes.
And we have to be supportive of it. Or if not, they're going to probably miss out on a lot of great employees too, I
No,
think.
absolutely. I mean, they have to become flexible. They have to say, okay, the reason they have these extracurricular activities or other things that they do is because that's what empowers them. That's what gives them the energy to then bring all that learning back to our company. I mean, being a social media manager, being somebody who's into branding, you've achieved something that it would take them a long time to achieve. So you're already bringing that expertise in-house. And the experiment that you do on your own is going to do what? Is going to bring all that knowledge back to the company so they can do better. So I think it's really, really amazing to see what's possible in the world. Earlier today, I was in a meeting with Amazon Live creators. So these are all people that go live on Amazon. And one of the guys, he created a software called Logi. And he was talking about how just 2 days ago, October 20th, 2021, in China. So China has they have different companies. So they have something like Alibaba's Taobao network, and there's two people who live streamed for about 12 to 14 hours, generated $3 billion in sales.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, holy smokes. And this is only the first day of their like 10-day Black Friday event. So they basically launched it up. But being able to create that kind of money on a live stream that lasted about 12 hours long is just mind-blowing because it's like, wow, if that's possible. And this kid is 28 years old.
Oh my gosh. And he's that young?
He's that young.
Man, I'm jealous.
I am too. But
I'm not gonna lie.
I am too. And I was reading some of the articles behind what he had done before, and when he jumped in, he tried out 150 different lipsticks. Tried out
like
on a live stream.
Yeah.
So now he's known as Mr. Lipstick King, right?
Talk about branding.
Right.
He just branded himself.
He branded himself. He's got millions of followers, and during that 12-hour live stream, he gained about 3.8 million new followers. So it just goes to show that anything, anywhere is possible, and that the only roadblock that we're facing is ourselves.
Oh gosh, totally. We're our worst enemies, worst critics, all of it. Oh my gosh.
So Raquel, share with my audience your expertise on the branding side that you do, or whichever, area of expertise that you want to share. You can give like 3 tips or 5 tips, anything would do.
Well, I never say I'm an expert of anything because I personally don't feel that. You know how everyone's like, you got to own it. I just don't. Right. Or like when someone's like, oh, you're an influencer. I'm like, no, I'm not. So it's like those words that I guess I still have my insecurities. When someone says expert, then I automatically think like, oh gosh, I have to know everything about it.
Right.
If you think about it, you don't. Right. So maybe I'm an expert. I don't know. Either way. For me, the whole, branding journey, that was natural for me. And what I've learned from that, and what I tell people all the time, is it happened because I was just being myself on social media. And I think that's where people kind of miss the boat, is they think that if they're going to be a brand, then they have to like have a certain image, which you do. But I feel like they think it's more external than internal, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like it's all internal, and then it's how the internal is shown.
Yes.
And that's how, for me, I'm just a very perceptive, intuitive person. So I naturally kind of figured that out on my own, where now you have people that are brand strategists, and like, how I have a company that hire me to help with their brand.
Yeah.
But for me, it was really natural, because at the end of the day, your brand is just who you are. It's your personality. I mean, Gary Vee talks about that all the time too. He was one of the first people to really have a brand, and he's crazy. Gary Vee, like you could tell from the start, like this guy's just being himself. He's being genuine. And I think that's kind of like the biggest tip for me is like, just own who you are. And then your brand will be an extension of that. And then you can kind of mold it, I guess, obviously visually with your logo and your colors, but I'm more of I'm the strategist. So I'm the one that comes up with like really fun outside of the box creative ways to share your story or to stand out, because that's another thing too, is that we're in a world where everybody's on their computer and their phone. So everyone's scrolling and you have to get people to stop on your post. Yes. And how are you going to do that? Like that's where people kind of get stuck too.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So so that's essentially like the big thing for me. As far as like expertise too, LinkedIn, I feel like I've really kind of figured out LinkedIn in the sense that I've been on the platform for 8 years. I have really good following, a really good presence, engagement, all of those things. But that also was being consistent, which I think that just is across the board for everybody, is consistency. Yes. And that's where people have a lot of problems. And that's why they give up. Because
they can't, because they cannot be bothered to be consistent.
Yeah. And then what happens too is we live in a world that we want the, instant gratification, and we're impatient. Yeah. So then that's another thing as well, is that people think, oh, I'm going to post something, it's going to go viral. And then suddenly I'm an influencer or I'm like getting all these views. And that's not the case either. You might luck out and get a viral video here and there, but most of the people that have a large presence have also it's taken time. I'm always of the mindset of slow and steady wins the race. Like I've never been, I believe in the tortoise.
I was just going to mention that the tortoise and the hare, he keeps going. He does the boring stuff, just keeps going.
Yeah.
And the thought about viral videos that you mentioned, I'm looking at plants. I'm a gardener, right? So I've got plants in the yard. So a viral video is similar to a weed.
Do you really want a weed to
do you really want a weed to bring attention to you, or do you really want something out of it? Because when you grow plants like tomatoes or vegetables or whatever, it'll take them time to grow. It'll anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. I can't remember the how long it takes for that plant to come out of the ground.
Yeah.
Have flowers. The flowers then have to be pollinated. And then you have the tomatoes, and even the tomatoes, the green tomatoes. And it'll take more time for that green tomato to become bigger, and then change into color. So yes, it takes time, and we see that in nature all the time.
I was going to say, that's why there's the saying that, you plant your seeds.
You got to plant those seeds.
And then you'll get your, it'll blossom. Same thing with a home, the foundation. You got to build the foundation.
Exactly.
The house is going to friggin' fall apart,
Yeah. And yes, you can sow the seed all you want, but that's not all, right? You sow the seed, but you got to continue watering it.
Yeah, and that's where like engagement comes in, where you have to be able to engage. You have to be able to reciprocate. You can't just expect people to like and comment on your stuff, but you not do it in return.
Exactly.
Because there's going to come a point where people are going to notice that and be like, well, this Raquel chick, I'm constantly liking her stuff and engaging, but she never responds to anything. You know what? Forget her. I'm just going to go ahead and unfollow or stop engaging.
Yeah.
And, that's something that I have taken great pride in. For instance, when I went out on my own right before COVID and on LinkedIn, for instance, and I've got thousands and thousands of followers. I think right now I'm like at 25,000 something. So that's a lot of people. And I had the notification of Raquel has a new position. And that's when I created True to You branding. And I did on purpose. Usually I'll turn it off because, it's not a big deal for me. But in this case, I wanted to make sure that people realized like I was out on my own, because obviously I needed business. So I did that. And the amount of congratulations that I received, like DMs and everything, was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And I remember spending a Friday night responding to all of them. And a lot of them were generic. You know how it gives you the option of just saying congrats. And in that case, I would respond, but I wouldn't make it a point to have it customized. When I could tell
personality in it, right? Yeah.
When I could tell those that were actually like customizing their congrats and made it a point to say something different, I would respond and customize it too. So
Yeah,
I
you
spent hours and
reciprocate.
hours.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell people it's things like that that have gotten to me where I am now,
Yeah.
and the respect and the credibility and all of those things, because you do have a lot of people that put themselves out there in a way where they're not really who they really are behind the scenes. And I'm sure you've seen that. I've met people where I'm like, wait, this person is nothing like they portray themselves.
Are they faking it so they can make it? Are you saying
Yeah.
that they're faking it?
You know, and I was telling someone yesterday, I was on a podcast yesterday, and I was saying how one of the biggest compliments that I receive when people meet me for the first time is, you're just the same.
You're
Oh
the
my
same
gosh.
person
Like
I
you're
saw
just like your
online.
videos. I'm like, well, that's the point,
That's the
you know?
point. Why would you do a bait and switch?
Yeah, like what if I showed up like super serious, right? Like people would be
Like,
like, yeah,
are you the
okay.
same person? I'm trying to find
Well,
that
that
person
happened
that.
to me once, Janae, is I got
Yeah.
on a call, a LinkedIn connection, who does all these amazing videos. They act out stuff like funny, hilarious. So I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to get this person on a call. This
Yeah.
is going to be like epic. This is going to be so much fun. Like we're going to
Yeah.
have such great energy. I will say it was the worst call I've ever had. And
Oh
I've
my
had
God.
a lot of calls. This person was like really quiet. They weren't engaged. I mean, I've never had to end a call before the half hour. If anything, they always go over.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, you know what? I got to go. I have another call. This one was like crickets. And I was like, okay, well, it was great meeting you. Thanks. And then I hung up, and this was a Zoom call. And I just was like, what was
What
that?
just
I don't know.
happened?
Maybe that person had an off day. I don't know. The person was completely the opposite
Wow.
of how they were seen on social media. And I
I
thought,
wonder what their human
interesting.
design chart says about that.
I know.
You know, since I've read this thing like all last night and today I was reading, I just keep thinking about, okay, what's the design chart of that person? I wonder
Yeah.
how they react.
Well,
So
you do start really thinking about that
Right.
person's personality and how they perceive things, or how they receive things, and how you're supposed to communicate with them. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot to be said when you understand how people work.
No, it's
That's
so
why so many
true.
companies have those like personality tests now and everything, because then they're able to understand how to talk to their manager or talk to their, employee. Because
Yeah.
like I'm one of those people where I don't take anything seriously. I'm not sensitive at all. And I have friends of mine. I mean, like Nancy, for instance.
Mhm.
Nancy and I are very
Nancy.
different. She's
Yes.
like, she and I, the way we perceive things and the way we take things is completely the opposite.
Yeah.
And so and that's okay. It's just we're built differently. But yeah, like a lot of things people would be offended by. I'm like, oh, what? But then I have to be careful too, because then I can easily offend other people, because I'm like, well, I would be offended by that. And then you in turn realize, okay, well, not everybody feels the same way as you, Raquel.
Well, I think what that does is that says who your tribe is and who you vibe with, and that you don't necessarily need to spend energy into somebody who's doesn't have the similar mindset. Or
Yeah, no, that was something too, is that I was able to kind of understand as well that I don't need to be liked or surrounded by everybody. Like I can be very picky about who's in my tribe, if you will. I mean, and that's okay. Where I think before I didn't see the value in that. I thought that I just needed to be liked by everyone and be nice to everybody. And I thought, you know what, like, and so unfortunately what was happening for me too is being a manifesting generator. We tend to attract energy vampires, people who
energy vampires.
Yes.
I was just thinking about like maybe that person was an energy vampire.
Yeah, and so we attract those energy vampires because we're the ones that are literally, creating the energy, and they don't have it, so then they're attracted towards that. And that was something that I understood also with the chart. I was like, oh my gosh, this makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Because I was always like, why am I attracting these people? And I thought, okay, I'm giving them something that they're missing.
Yes.
that's void, right? And like that doesn't mean that I need to necessarily like fill their void. It's okay if I don't. It's okay if I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, you know what? Go find another battery. Yeah,
Go find another
this
battery.
Energizer Bunny is not going to be your battery.
There's nothing
Yeah.
coming. There's no regenerative energy. So, that's another cool thing, right? With
Yeah.
the electric cars that we see, they have regenerative braking. So even though you're giving it battery, but the brakes are like, oh, thanks for
Yeah.
let me give back some of that to you.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah. So
I can't
I'm
even
very
believe like
mindful.
where the conversation is going, but this is really fun. I love it.
Okay, good. Because I literally like, I tell people all the time, like, you don't need to give me questions ahead of time. You don't like, I'm really good off the cuff. It's one of my
No,
superpowers is I can
I
talk
I
about
love
anything.
I love that about you, Raquel.
Thanks.
All right, so at this juncture of our conversation, I know
Okay.
we talked about your origin story, stuff nobody's heard about, your motivations, your
Hmm.
expertise with a quotation mark, your
My influence.
your influence, right? Because obviously you are an influencer. You're influencing people because they're attracted by your personality, by how real you are. And I think a lot of people struggle with being so real in front of a large audience because they're still like telling themselves, wait, what are other people going to think about it? Because
Mhm.
we're constantly thinking about ourselves no matter what's going on.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of practice to get over that hump,
It does take practice, Janae.
right?
You're right with that. Like it wasn't overnight for me either. It took a lot of practice to just kind of own my truth and be who I was, to be like,
Yeah.
okay, it's okay. It's fine. Not everyone's gonna, be okay with it. And some people are
Yeah.
gonna judge, and so be it.
So be it.
So be
Exactly.
it.
And the beautiful part is somebody has a podcast called Screw the Naysayers
Mm,
because
I like that.
all they're doing is they're validating how truthful you are, how powerful you are. They're validators because so you do need people who are the opposite to you or telling you that you shouldn't be doing that because that then just says, hey, what you're about is exactly what you're being.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going in circles, but that's
That's okay.
okay.
I won't judge.
We won't judge. So, audience, check out Raquel, but we do have some fun questions for Raquel
Okay.
that we're gonna do quick fire. Sal, what is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
Dance. I wish I wanted to be a backup dancer, like
Mhm.
for Janet Jackson, Justin
Oh,
Timberlake, Madonna. Yeah. So like I would have loved to have been able to like get into like hip hop dance. Yeah.
let me make some calls. Maybe we can hook you up.
I think that yeah, that ship has sailed.
You think that?
I'm
You think
46
that?
years old. Like
You are
I
so
don't move
young.
like I used to.
Do not put blocks in front of you,
I
little
know,
one.
I know. Maybe that'll be my next goal is
With
to like be on
you
Dancing
know,
with the
you know,
Stars
yeah.
or something.
All right. So you did mention what you wanted to be as a child, but let's go over it again. What did you want to be when you were a child?
I wanted to be a teacher.
You wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah, I did. As really glamorous as that sounds. Yeah.
It is a very powerful position. I think it's not just powerful, but it's a very giving position. And being
Yeah.
a manifesting generator, you're constantly giving, and
Yeah.
children are the best receivers because they will come back. They bring that energy back to us by asking really thoughtful questions.
And
It's just,
they're usually like being super authentic and
oh my
being real
God.
in that moment. And that's like, I think what I love the most about talking to kids is their
Yeah.
honesty and just kind of like, hey, I'm just going to tell you how it is. Like your hair is really ugly today. Like my kids used to do that all the time. Mom, I don't like what you're wearing or whatever. And you're like, and then I would go change because I
Yeah, and
was
then you would go change because like, okay, fine. Yeah, my kids are the same way. They're like, Dad, why is your hair the same way every single day? I'm like, I don't know. And then my wife's like, yeah, you've had the same hair for the past 20 years. I'm like, it just
So they
goes.
wanted you to make a change.
I'm like, no, this is dad's hair.
That's funny.
How about you change? All right, next one. What is your favorite movie or TV show? And if none, how about a book?
No, I definitely have a favorite movie, 16 Candles. Yeah,
16
I'm a
Candles.
huge John Hughes like fan of the 80s, all those movies, Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, all of those, like Ferris Bueller.
Oh my
I could
God.
watch those
Ferris
all day long.
Bueller's.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies.
Yeah, all of them.
Ferris Bueller's Day
I
Off.
have moments where I'll just like on a Friday, Saturday night, I'm like, I'm a very nostalgic person.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Me
So
too,
anything
please.
that just reminds me of my past and puts me back in like when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it.
All right. Next question is,
Mm-hmm.
what movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
You know what? I think I would want to be Molly Ringwald in Pretty in Pink. I don't know what it is about that role in that movie. I don't know. Then maybe the pink dress at the end, and then getting to play, next to Ducky.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? John Cryer, and then you've got the other Andrew McCartney, like all those guys.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know. I think it would be kind of fun. Or even 16, or even her character in 16 Candles, because Jake Ryan is a babe.
Oh my God, that is so
I have
funny.
an I Heart Jake Ryan t-shirt, by the way. See, I'm hardcore.
That is awesome. See, I didn't grow up in the 80s in the US. I grew up.
Okay, so it was different.
Oh, that's John Cryer. Oh my God.
Yes.
I know him from
Two and a
Two and a Half Men.
probably. Yeah.
And
but
then
that was Ducky.
And he played Lex Luthor
Yes.
in Supergirl, the TV show.
There's James Spader, who, from Blacklist. So he was
He's
Blaine
in there. Oh,
in Pretty in Pink. And yeah, I mean, all these guys, it was just, yeah.
that's so cool. Okay, I'm gonna have to go check this movie out.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens then.
Oh, and the music is great too. I have the soundtrack to Pretty in Pink.
Oh man, I love 80s music.
So it's
all
the
right.
Smiths, New Order, all of that. So check out the soundtrack.
I will check it out.
Not be disappointed.
So let me ask you this question. So the reason I asked this question, what movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Okay.
Actually came from a movie called Ready Player One. And I don't know if you read the book yet.
I have not. No.
You have to, like, literally.
Okay.
If you can't read the book, go watch the movie. But I think
Is
the
it on
book,
Netflix or something, or Hulu, or any of those, Amazon?
I think it's somewhere there.
Okay, you'll have
But
to remind me.
It's
after
called
this.
Ready Player One, but the book is really powerful because let me give you a premise of the book.
Okay.
The book is set in the future, and this one CEO of this company that basically engulfs the entire world. So in the future, gas prices are too high, nobody's driving, but everybody's going to school in virtual reality. So he created this software called Oasis. So now when he dies, he puts out a video and he says, hey, there's three keys that you got to find. And when whoever finds these 3 Easter eggs in this game, because it's all software, will get to own all of this company. So this is a $1 trillion company. They get to own
I might have
part
heard
of
of it.
So now these guys are going, and now the cool part is this dude who's a CEO loves the 80s. So there's references.
Snap. Okay.
It's the references to the 80s all over the movie, and I'm like, oh my
so
God,
then I'm definitely gonna have to enjoy.
you're gonna love it. Yes.
Okay.
It's the book is crazy, and I think Ready Player 2, which is the sequel to the book, just came out, and I haven't started reading it yet. But I was like, oh my God, give me the 80s right now.
Yeah, no, I'm a full 80s like fanatic. Yeah.
All right, perfect. I love it. Who is your superhero?
Who is my superhero? I will
Who's your
say
favorite
that I was
superhero?
also very obsessed with Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, because growing up, her series, like
Yeah.
just having her Wonder Woman, and then she would do her little, like circle, and then so I would say Wonder Woman, because it just as a young girl, like she just was everything, my hero.
Nice.
For sure.
I love it. Wonder Woman is amazing. She's got the lasso of truth, and she's just got full of heart and everything.
Yeah.
Last question.
Okay.
If you were a board game, what would it be?
I think I would be Candyland.
Candyland. I gotta look up what this video game looks like.
Oh, it's not a video game. It's
a board game.
Yeah. No, it's like super amateur. It's like shoots and ladders, but with like candy canes, and it's all candy tree, and just the colors. So talk about the 80s. The colors. It's like bright pinks and greens, and just like visually as a kid, I just loved it. And the fact that candy, you can't. The being in a candy world, like. So yes, I would be Candyland.
I love it. That is awesome.
I know. I think your daughter was like really excited about it too.
She is very excited about the entire episode. She's excited about Candyland because she's like, "Oh my God, who is this woman? Can I be on her podcast?
Exactly.
On her TV
Wonder
show?
Woman, Candyland, you name it." So cool.
Raquel, this was so much fun speaking with you and learning a little more about you and continuing to build that relationship. Where can my audience find you?
LinkedIn, Instagram, all my name. I do have a TikTok account, but it's awful. And, I have Raq the Boat on YouTube, RAQ the Boat. Yeah. So I think that's kind of the best place. I'm not on Facebook. Sorry.
Perfect. Well, Raquel, this was a ton of fun. We'll be sure to include all of those URLs to the show notes and get you connected to people. And what's something that you're working on?
It's so cute. This is the best. Real life.
My daughter is being called by her grandmother upstairs. She doesn't want to go.
No thanks, Grandma.
No thanks, Grandma. I'm happy down here standing in front of my dad's door.
Of course. Why not?
Well, Raquel, thank you so much again. We will reconnect one of these days again and do another IRL meetup.
This is the best.
Guys, thank you so much again. We'll talk very soon. Bye, Raquel. Thank you for listening to this Hacks and Hobbies episode. Junaid would love to hear from you, so please leave a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts. Visit hacksandhobbies.com to find additional information on the guest today, as well as the show notes.